You think of big wars, you think of big reasons, right? Land, power, ideology. But what if I told you two global superpowers, we're talking the United States and Great Britain, came this close to all-out war because of a pig? Yep, a pig. It sounds completely made up, but it's an absolutely true story, so let's get into it. Okay, so picture this. It's 1859. You're on San Juan Island, which is basically this remote little speck of land way out in the Pacific Northwest. There's this tiny, kind of slapped together American fort, and just off the coast, the full might of the British Royal Navy. We're talking warships with their cannons pointed right at them. You could cut the Kenshin with a knife. And just get a load of these numbers, because the odds are just insane. On one side, you have 66 American soldiers. That's it. Facing them, 5 British warships carrying more than 2,000 Marines, armed with over 70 cannons. I mean, talk about David and Goliath. This is like David showing up with a pea shooter. So you have to be asking yourself, why? What on earth could have happened to bring the British Empire's wrath down on this tiny island? I mean, did they attack an ambassador? Violate some sacred treaty? It has to be something huge to justify this kind of response, right? Nope, not even close. It was the killing of a pig. Seriously, that's it. The whole international incident, the warships, the cannons, all because of one hungry pig. It's just wild. Okay, so how on earth does a dead pig lead to a military standoff? Well, to figure that out, we gotta rewind a bit. Let's meet the main characters in this. Let's call it an agricultural drama. You've got an American farmer, his potato garden, and one extremely unlucky animal. So it all goes down on June 15th, 1859. This American farmer, Lyman Cutler, walks out and finds a pig just tearing up his potato patch. Now, this pig belongs to the British Hudson's Bay Company. Cutler's had enough, so he shoots it. He feels bad, though, and immediately goes to the pig's caretaker, Charles Griffin, and offers $10 for it. But Griffin demands $100, which back then was a ton of money. And just like that, this isn't about a pig and some potatoes anymore. It's about whose rules apply on this island, America's or Britain's. And you can just see how stubborn both sides were. Cutler's argument was super simple. Hey, he was eating my potatoes. But Griffin's comeback was just as legendary. It is up to you to keep your potatoes out of my pig. I mean, it's a classic deadlock. Neither one is backing down because they know this isn't just about farming. It's about who's in charge. Right, so here's the thing you absolutely have to understand. The pig wasn't the cause of the fire. It was just the match. The real problem, the giant pile of kindling just waiting for a spark, was a really, really vague treaty that left everybody wondering who actually owned these islands in the first place. Okay, let's geek out on this treaty for a second. It's the Oregon Treaty of 1846. It was supposed to finally settle the border. It says the line runs along the 49th parallel. And then, here's the key part. It's supposed to follow the middle of the channel that separates the mainland from Vancouver Island. Simple enough, right? Wrong. Turns out there are 2 main channels, and the treaty geniuses forgot to mention which one they meant. And this is where it all goes sideways. The Americans said, obviously, the border is the Haro Strait, over here on the west, which would give the U.S. all the islands. But the British said, no, the border is clearly the Rosario Strait to the east. And surprise, surprise, that would give them all the islands. The crazy part is, both sides kind of had a point because the treaty was so poorly written. And these islands were a huge strategic prize, so neither side was going to give them up easily. So, with all that in mind, let's jump back to our standoff. You've got the warships, you've got the soldiers, and the fate of 2 of the world's most powerful nations now comes down to just a handful of guys. And what they do next could literally start a war. So let's meet the players. For the Americans, you've got this hot-headed general, William Harney, who basically started this whole military mess on his own authority. Then you've got the boots on the ground, the very defiant Captain Pickett. On the brutish side, there's Governor James Douglas. He was angry, for sure, but he kept a cooler head. And then there's the guy they sent in to clean it all up, the absolute legend, General Winfield Scott. So the British, with their massive force, tell Pickett to pack it up and leave. And Pickett, with just his 66 guys, basically says, make me. He tells them flat out he won't retreat unless he's forced to by a bigger army than what they have, which of course they did. It was an absolutely insane bluff. Super brave, or maybe just super crazy. Meanwhile, back in Washington, President Buchanan is probably tearing his hair out. He's got a general who's gone rogue and is about to start a war over a pig. He needs a fixer. So he calls in the big guns, General Winfield Scott. This guy is 73 years old, a hero from multiple wars, a master diplomat. They called him Old Fuss and Feathers for a reason. He was the guy you sent when things got really bad. And Scott gets there and doesn't miss around. He completely ignores the fired-up commanders on the ground and goes straight to the top, to Governor Douglas. And his plan is genius. He says, look, let's both calm down. How about a temporary joint occupation? We'll each keep just 100 guys here, that's it. And then he quietly removes the general who started it all. Just like that, he took all the heat out of the situation. Brilliant. So Scott's diplomacy worked. War was off the table. For now. But they still hadn't figured out who actually owned the islands. The final answer wouldn't be decided with cannons, but with paperwork. And believe it or not, it would take another 12 years to get there. And this next part is maybe the most amazing thing about the whole story. For the next 12 years, you've got a small group of American soldiers and a small group of British Marines living together on this tiny island. You'd think they'd be enemies, right? Nope. They became buddies. They had picnics, celebrated holidays together, basically just hanging out while they waited for the politicians to sort things out. So finally, in 1872, everyone agrees to just let someone else decide. They get a neutral arbitrator, Kaiser Wilhelm I of Germany, of all people, to look at the maps and make the call. He reviews everything and comes back with the verdict. The border goes through the Haro Strait. That means the San Juan Islands are officially American territory. And just like that, the whole thing was over. No war, no bloodshed. So why does this weird little story still matter? Well, for one, this peaceful ending helped build the trust that led to the US-Canada border being the longest undefended border in the world. It also showed everyone that, hey, maybe we can solve problems with talking instead of fighting, a huge win for arbitration. And today, you can actually go there. The whole place is a national park, a really cool monument to the war that, thankfully, never happened. Which kind of leaves you with one last thing to think about. The Pig War is a perfect example of how a tiny, almost silly incident can blow up when you mix in national pride and unclear boundaries. It really makes you wonder, right? What's the modern version of that pig? A dispute over fishing rights? A drone flying in the wrong place? Maybe even just a tweet? What little thing could be the spark that pushes nations to the brink today?